Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll get started just with some of our kind of introductory information for this session, but welcome to the space. We appreciate you being here. We're going to give kind of an overview of this event, kind of the folks who helped make it happen, the larger effort it's a part of, but first we're going to start with a land acknowledgement. So we stand upon a land that carries the footsteps of millennia of Kumeyaay people. They are a people whose traditional lifeways intertwine with a worldview of earth and sky in a community of living beings. This land is part of a relationship that has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present day. It is part of a worldview founded in the harmony of the cycles of the sky and balance in the forces of life. For the Kumeyaay, red and black represent the balance of those forces that provide for harmony within our bodies, as well as the world around us. As students, faculty, staff, and alumni of San Diego State University, we acknowledge this legacy from the Kumeyaay. We promote this balance in life as we pursue our goals of knowledge and understanding. We find inspiration in the Kumeyaay spirit to open our minds and hearts. It is the legacy of the red and black. It is the land of the Kumeyaay. So with that, I again just want to thank everyone for being here at the Somatic Healing event. This has been such a joy to work on and put together, and we're so excited to share it with you. I want to give a special shout out to all of our wonderful co-sponsors who helped us to spread the word about this event. That includes the APITA Center, the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Center, the Black Resource Center, Native Resource Center, the Pride Center, the Undocumented Student Resource Center, and the Imperial Valley Cross Cultural Center. My name is Alex Aikio, pronouns she, her. I'm the Assistant Director of the Women's Resource Center. And part of the programming that we do collaboratively each April at the WRC with many of our community and campus partners is Take Back the Week. This is a large collaborative effort for April during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is recognized nationally. But each year, San Diego State University hosts Take Back the Week in order to raise awareness about sexual assault and provide spaces to center survivors' healing and their resilience and their experiences. This year's Take Back the Week is taking place this week, April 15th to 18th, so we are on day 2. Many campuses across the United States observe an event called Take Back the Night, which is a long-standing worldwide movement to stand against sexual violence. That event originated as a protest against violence and the fear that women and other gender marginalized folks encounter when walking the streets at night. San Diego State University honors this history, honors that event through Take Back the Week, and we'll be hosting a Take Back the Night event on this Thursday, as well as some other really incredible programming that you can see on our website and on all of our social media, but that includes this fantastic event. Now, due to the nature of Take Back the Week, any disclosures of experiences of assault, of survivor status, those are not considered disclosures to a university official, and as such, they will not be reported to Title IX. So in the context of these events, if any student would like to make a disclosure to a university official to make kind of a more formal report to Title IX, they can contact the Title IX office directly, and we will provide you that contact information. But that said, folks who disclose being survivors during these events in the context of Take Back the Week can keep their stories confidential. And we are asking that at these events, SDSU employees are asked to abstain from their duty to report. And if anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to message me in the chat. We have a couple of very special folks attending who are our survivor advocates. These are some of the incredible folks who both work on Take Back the Week with the WRC and are also confidential resources for survivors on campus who can help folks take whatever steps they deem necessary, help them navigate things emotionally, help them learn their rights, learn about processes on campus, and really just act as a supportive pillar along the way as folks figure out what their journey of healing and survivorship kind of looks like. If anyone during this event feels the need for some kind of additional emotional support, would like to be in touch with those advocates, like in real time during this event, please send me a message in the chat and I will send you the link to another Zoom where you will be able to meet with our survivor advocates. I will make sure that they meet you in that space. But again, just reach out to me via chat and we will make sure that you can access that Zoom space and that you get to meet with a survivor advocate. All right. With all of that, I am very pleased to introduce our awesome facilitator for this event, Di Shang. Di Shang, they, them pronouns, is a politicized somatics trauma resolution practitioner and erotic power enthusiast. In their work, they bridge nervous system intelligence, the ancestral wisdom of their Taoist lineage, and their personal practice of tantra to support our healing work and feeling more vulnerability, intimacy, and belonging. Their work centers the body as the ground for our liberation and the embodiment of pleasure as our resistance. They identify as a transmasculine, non-binary, immigrant, and survivor on the autism spectrum. Thank you so much for being here, Dee.
Thanks so much, Alex. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so honored to be facilitating the session today as part of Take Back the Week. I'm also an alumni of San Diego State. It's been like 10 years now since I graduated, and it feels really good to come back and support the Women's Resource Center that I love so much. So today I will be facilitating a workshop called Somatic Healing for Survivors. And the intention is to introduce folks to the practice of somatic healing as a form of healing trauma. And the thing about being a survivor is that our healing processes are so nuanced, so individualized, so personal, that there is no one size fits all solution. There is no one path that will enable us to, there's no formula. But what I can offer is foundational pieces around somatic healing that can help us understand a little bit more about how our trauma shows up for us as individuals. I'm going to provide us with definitions and practices and tools so that we can meet what comes up for us through the lens of the nervous system, right? So when we talk about somatic, I'll define it a bit more. But the intention today is to understand that trauma lives in the body, and through building a relationship with the body, we are healing. So I have slides for us today to guide our conversation. And I'll go ahead and share that because that will help me stay on track. It can be very chatty sometimes with the autism. Okay, share screen. Okay. Can you please let me know if you cannot see my screen? Okay. Feel free to reach out to either myself through a DM or maybe Alex if you have any questions, any tech support that might be needed. I have my chat box open, so I'm able to see that if you need some care or attention. All right. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to edit your name to include your pronouns. That way, if you share, I know the right pronouns to use to refer to you. And to do so, you can click on participants. Now that I'm screen sharing, it's probably on the top of the screen. If you hover on the top of the screen, you'll see the participants button. It could be on the bottom of your screen as well, or essentially where your Zoom screen is. Hover over your name on the sidebar, click more on the drop down, and then rename yourself. Thank you so much. And if you would like, please take a moment to share your name, your pronouns, maybe your location in the chat. And Alex already introduced me, but I also wanted to add that, yeah, I lived on occupied Khmer Island, San Diego for about 10 years, 9.5 years before I moved to Chicago, where I'm at now. And Chicago is the occupied Council of Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi lands. Yeah, I moved here in 2022. So that's where I'm located, in case you're wondering. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you can, your name, pronouns, and location. I'm going to assume most of you are in San Diego. Thank you, Avery. Just gonna keep going for now as folks are typing in the chat. And I think before we do the resourcing practice, I'd like to go into the engagement norms and I'll come back to group agreements. So engagement norms are invitations. This helps us have a more contained and relational experience since we're on Zoom and it's very two-dimensional. These are some ways in which we can take care of ourselves and each other in the space. So the first one is to please take care of yourself and your needs as they arise. So, if you need to use the bathroom, get a snack, make a cup of tea, feel free to do so. There's no need to ask for permission. Please call for a pause or a collective breath if you feel that that's needed. So all you have to do is drop in the chat, say, hey D, can we pause? And the pause often creates a little bit of space. It breaks up the momentum so that if needed, we can reground, reconnect. And when you're ready, if you called for the pause, you will be the one that will ask us or let us know when to continue. Please keep your microphone muted. Having your camera on is totally optional. And when someone has shared in the chat, or if someone has shared out loud on off mic, feel free to use the plus sign to share your resonance. You're also welcome to use emojis in the chat. You can also use reactions, and that can be found also on the Zoom bar. To share your resonance, to share your affirmation, to share your care. But I also want to invite us to refrain from responding or making meaning of anyone's shares, definitely not without clarification or consent. So if someone has shared, please consider just sharing emojis rather than like replying or offering advice. You're welcome to ask for clarification if you'd like, but that's on the person who shared to decide if they want to do that or not. If you have questions for me specifically that you want me to answer, please try to include an asterisk. If you forget, that's fine. You can include the asterisk after your question, but that will mark the text or the chat for me so that I know that that's a question that I'll either answer in the moment or Alex will gather so that we can have that covered during the Q&A session at the end. Okay, if you have any questions about engagement norms, please let me know. If not, we'll go into our resourcing practice. Okay, so today I'll be offering us about a total of 8 practices, but they're broken up into sections, so we're not going to do all of them at once. So the 3 practices that I'm going to start, it's going to be in one guided visualization and practice, are stabilization, nourishment, and protection. Some other practices that you might consider to support yourself in feeling more resourced. You could look outside your window if you have one. That can be really resourcing. You might stim if you have a stim toy or object that supports you with that. You might drink some water, top up your water bottle if you haven't already, or you might take a few deep breaths. So these are some ways that not only during this portion of resourcing, but throughout our session together, all the way until the end, you're welcome to use any of these practices, of course, including the ones that you already know and have in your back pocket as something that helps you feel a little bit more present. So we're going to start with stabilization, nourishment, protection is going to be in one connected experience. Wherever you are, and if you're feeling ready, take a moment to perhaps wiggle your toes if you can. If you got shoes on, consider taking them off or just pointing and flexing your foot, circling the ankles, or just coming into the body through some really gentle movement. You might twist side to side in your seat. If you're laying down, you're welcome to twist from the torso. Maybe find like a stretch, just inviting in a little bit of connection through movement. A side body stretch could feel really good. If a yawn happens, I welcome that. Beautiful. Maybe a shoulder roll. in one direction 3 to 5 times, and then the opposite direction. Great. And let's begin with 3 clearing breaths. Breathe in through the nose or the mouth, doesn't matter, whichever feels more accessible to you. Exhale through the mouth. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale with a sigh or a sound. Next breath at your own pace. Exhale, maybe a moan or a groan. You're invited to consider closing your eyes. Maybe experiment, see if that feels right for you today. If not, maybe a soft gaze away from the screen for this practice. There's no right or wrong way to be right now. Might we consider that any part of you here, any speed, any momentum, any tiredness is all welcome. Any curiosity, any fear, any nervousness is all welcome. Any joy, any pleasure, any grief, any resentment, shame, all welcomed. Let those experiences be in the room as well. Let this session be a place in which we might be able to meet these parts with care, with tenderness, with compassion. Consider this idea of stabilization. Consider that something within you or around you could be stabilizing. It could be so simple, perhaps the floor or what's beneath you, what you're sitting on. Might you notice the stability of what's beneath you, perhaps connecting to gravity, this stabilizing, predictable force that doesn't change, doesn't go away, it's always there. Perhaps it might be a tree outside your window, a tree that you know of, doesn't have to be physically in the same space as you. The mind is powerful. When we imagine something that we have known, it sometimes brings us back there. And so maybe there's a tree that you love sitting under. Maybe there's a pet in your space or somewhere else. Maybe there's a body of water. Maybe the Pacific Ocean feels really stabilizing for you. As you begin to notice the possibility of stabilization, what might happen? Perhaps something in the breath might soften. Perhaps something in the body might soften, the shoulders, the eyebrows, the jaw. Some of this might happen or nothing might happen, and that's okay too. Let's take a few moments here to really take our time noticing stabilization, as much time as it might need. Again, it might not happen today, it might not happen the next hour, but let's imagine that stabilization could be possible and is possible for you. You don't have to be in stillness. You're always welcome to move, to stretch, to yawn, to breathe out loud. Take up the space that you might need here. No one can see you, at least not me. You might want to linger here in stabilization. Stabilization might be just what you need or what you're sensing or looking for. If you'd like to add another layer, we're moving now into nourishment. We're now noticing, looking for sources that might feel nourishing to us. Perhaps again, a body of water, perhaps the idea of being able to connect to the mycelial network beneath us, these infinite interconnected web of mushrooms or spores really that come up into mushrooms that create and compost and regenerate life force energy. Might that be nourishing for you? Might a friend whose presence feel nourishing? Might there be a spiritual practice that is nourishing for you? Might there be ancestors that feel nourishing for you? Choose one. It doesn't have to be complex. Let it be simple. Let it be really, really doable. That's so important that it's doable. Allow yourself to be nourished any amount. It could be 1% of nourishment, with the possibility that it could increase over time. As you notice sources of nourishment, what might happen now? Might something in the body relax? Might something feel satiated? Might something begin to alchemize or move or shift? Might grief show up? Might longing show up? Again, everything is welcomed here. There's nothing that you're doing incorrectly. There's no correct way to be with the body. For you, nourishment and stabilization might be enough. If you would like to join me in feeling, noticing, and sensing sources of protection, we're going there now. So what are some sources that might feel protective for you? Could be, again, so simple. It could be the four walls in the building that you're in. It could be perhaps an imaginary cocoon around you, or a warm, fuzzy coat that, could expand into like wings to protect you. It could be a pack of wolves, could be a bear. Perhaps it is armor that you wear in your imagination. Perhaps there is a spiritual warrior or goddess or deity or angel, or however, whatever your orientation might be, feel protective for you. Once again, the invitation is to take your time, to allow for the possibility of the felt sense of something protective. If things begin to feel overwhelming or too much, just come back to stabilization. That is the foundation. And again, stabilization can be so simple. It could be the chair beneath you, the gravity that's beneath you. Perhaps you take a breath into the idea that you might have roots that could connect you into the earth. Notice now how you might be feeling, perhaps any contrast from when you first arrived. Notice that through engaging with sources of stabilization, nourishment, and protection, that now we have woven this collective energetic field that can hold what we might not be able to hold on our own. Even though we're not together in person, through the energetic space, we've woven together these sources so that we can put something down, so that we can let these sources hold it for us. Within my personal practice, I work with the goddess Durga and Guan Yin. They're two goddesses, different goddesses from different lineages. Durga is the goddess of great mothering, of protection, of fierce protection, of spiritual warriorship. And Guan Yin is the goddess of unconditional love and compassion. She offers us the most soothing, loving compassion to help us hold any pain that we cannot hold on our own, that we're not meant to hold on our own. might we consider that these sources help us create a container in which we can be held, that you can be held. Let's take a few clearing breaths, 3 to 5 at your own pace. Breathe in. Your hands might find, somewhere to rest organically, maybe on the heart or on the belly or on the top of the legs. Take your time coming back to here and now. Perhaps as you blink open your eyes, if they're not already there, you might look around the space first before coming to the screen. Feel free to drop an emoji or a color or an animal in the chat, words or phrases that emerged for you through that practice. Yeah, chat is open always. Okay. So those were 3 practices that we did together, 3 practices that you can come back to at any time. We've, through our practice of noticing sources of stabilization, nourishment, and protection, it's here now, right? So it can be so simple like, wow, I feel really tired. Can I lean into the resource of nourishment to help regenerate my energy? Or I'm feeling a lot of grief right now. Might I leave that to Guan Yin, or might I put that down into the ocean, right? The salt water is so powerful and alchemizing. So that's how we can use the container that has been woven together through our individual and collective resources. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about group agreements before I go into the portion of defining somatic healing. That's where we're going next. And then after I define somatic healing, I'll talk a little bit about phases of trauma resolution. There's only 2, don't worry. And then I'll also offer a really simple practice that supports you in practicing trauma resolution. Yes, you can do it on your own. And it always begins here. It always begins with having resources that are bigger than what we are attempting often to hold on our own, right? I think sometimes, depending on our intersectional identities, our relationships to receiving help and receiving care can be a bit more difficult, can be less accessible. And so starting with like practicing leaning on stabilization, nourishment, and protection is beautiful. That's where I started, and that has gotten me to where I am today. So group agreements, yes, after that process, then we'll have a Q&A portion, and I'll be sharing ways that you can stay connected with me as well. Okay, group agreements, confidentiality and anonymity of everyone present. If you find something that you resonate with in this workshop, please feel free to share that with credit back to me. A lot of information around trauma is pretty accessible, but the practice that I'm offering you all was created by me. So if you're using that practice and you want to share it, please credit me. And any stories that are shared here, please do not share that with anyone else. Please use I statements when sharing as well. Respect pronouns. If you accidentally use the wrong one, don't worry about it. Briefly apologize. It's okay. No need to make a big deal about it. In this space, we resist anti-Blackness and white supremacy culture, trans and homophobia, ableism and scarcity, misogyny and misogynoir, and as a lifelong practice. And in that spirit, we practice being in the discomfort of not knowing, not not knowing better, right? Or not having the information, if we accidentally cause harm, and of course, in taking accountability. So it's often a practice. We're not going to do it perfectly. The intention is that we are here to learn about ways to care for ourselves and heal through the experience of our body and our spirit. And therefore, we want to hold one another in loving regard, knowing that we're all in different stages of our healing and transformation, and we all have different ways of processing our experiences. If anyone has any questions or requests, additions to group agreements, please let me know now in the chat. You're also welcome to use the raise hand function to get my attention if you'd like to unmute. Yeah. Great. We've covered our engagement norms. Now I'm going to describe or define what somatic means. So somatic is the term used to describe the relationship that we have with our body. Somatic healing invites us to consider how our bodies are the keeper of our memories, our desires, our longings, and our hurt, and how it also has the inherent capacity to heal given the right conditions. For example, if you get a paper cut, if you keep it clean and dry enough, if you put, some antibiotics on it, or rather, I don't know what Neosporin is called, but if you put that, the right conditions allow for the paper cut to heal on its own. Similarly, when it comes to trauma, given the right conditions, our body has the intrinsic capacity to heal. And so part of creating the right conditions are what we did earlier, resourcing with stabilization, nourishment, and protection. This helps us create conditions that can allow for what wants to come up. So often when we think of resourcing, sometimes we think of needing to change or make our activations go away, right? Like we don't want to experience it. That is useful and helpful and often needed. And when we want to move into healing and transformation, when we're in the right conditions, the activation will come up and we want to be able to meet it. I'll talk more about that in a second. Indigenous communities and people of color have always been engaging in somatic practice and wisdom. For example, as a Chinese person, my lineage of Taoism have included the body and the spirit in healing for millennia. Traditional Chinese medicine have existed for generations, and all of it considers the multitudes of the somatic experience. Politicized somatics is the practice of listening to, attuning, harmonizing with, and caring for our bodies as an act of liberation. And so, yes, while we fight for liberation through dismantling systems and through collective resistance, politicized somatics invites us to also consider our body as a ground for our liberation. The more we practice embodying our joy, and what I mean by embody is we can feel it. We feel joy, we feel pleasure, we feel belonging in texture, in sensation, in flavor, in image, in vibrations, and safety. The more we practice embodying joy, pleasure, belonging, and safety, the more we are resisting the systems such as the patriarchy, such as misogyny that harm us, right? We're saying, yes, you can exist, but I will have my joy. I will have my pleasure. And the act of us embodying more pleasure and more joy is an act of resistance. So this is how I define somatic in my work. Somatic also includes not just the physical realm. Yes, it is the body, and it's very easy to say, yes, this is my arm, yes, this is my nose, yes, I have a heart organ, yes, I have a stomach organ. Somatic, in the lineage in which I've learned and practice it, also includes these other categories. It includes our emotional body, our mental body, spiritual, energetic, and relational body. That in our body, we hold our emotions, our mind creates thoughts that create reactions in the body. We respond to our thoughts through the body. We form narratives in our mind through the experiences that we have that engage the body. And it also includes our spiritual practices, right? For example, when I'm lighting a candle at my ancestral altar, I feel in my body this sense of being held and this warm embrace, right? Energetic, of course, right? Like energy levels is one thing to consider, like how much life force do I feel like I have? How much energy do I have? That's experienced through the body, as well as relational, right? There are certain people that help us feel perhaps more connected, more present, more safe, more held. And then there are others who don't. And so somatic includes all of these categories. We're going to do an interactive practice now. And I know folks are a little bit more quieter, and that's okay. I love a Zoom room where folks are just kind of listening, a little bit shy. But if you feel like you want to engage, please do so. I'm going to stop sharing screen in a second, but I'm curious, in the definition that I offered, right, that it's about creating conditions so that we can feel a little bit more held, that it's about attuning to our body as an act of liberation, that's about embodying joy, pleasure, belonging, and safety, and that it includes these categories. What are some somatic practices that you are already engaging in? What are some ways that you already have a somatic practice? And I wanted to map some of what folks share on this map. So before we do that, I want to talk about this map. Here I have the six categories that I just named: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and relational. This is the range of resonance map. And on this map, we have fast, medium, and slow. Fast represents or is the speed that we often experience when our nervous system is in sympathetic. Slow is what we often experience in parasympathetic. So this is the range in which our nervous system can experience different activities. And so if you don't mind putting in the chat some of the ways that you're already experiencing somatic practice, and I'll get us started off. So I like to take really long walks with my dog, Baloo, like up to an hour sometimes. And I would say we move at like somewhere between a medium and a fast pace. So I'm going to add long walks here. Another thing I like to do is have my morning coffee and a journaling practice. I write about 3 pages a day. So I would consider that in like more of the slow realm. So coffee and journaling. That helps me engage my mind, sets me up for the day. It engages my spirit, and coffee. Sometimes it's a matcha, so I'm gonna add matcha there too. It brings my energy up. So I'm so curious, what are 3 practices that you already enjoy? 3, just 3. If it feels like, oh, there are so many, what are just 3? Cool. Avery reads books for a long time. Avery, let me know if it needs to be somewhere on the map, but I'm going to assume that it's somewhere between like slow and medium. And of course, this is not a one size fits all, right? This is just, yeah, a collaborative experience of creating a range of resonance. Singing in the car, yeah, love that. And because you're driving, I'm assuming it's somewhere on the fast side, right, Angela? Let me know if that's different for you. I'm just gonna add that here. Singing in the car. Beautiful. Singing is especially great because singing engages our vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in our whole system. And we talk about the nervous system, right? It's the nerves in our body. The vagus nerve is the largest nerve, and when we sing, it helps us to regulate. So that's so beautiful. Napping, yeah, napping with a heated blanket. Great. Deep breaths. Listening to music, sounds of nature. Orienting. Yeah, beautiful, Elspeth. I'm going to talk about orienting in a second as well. Daily diary. That's dairy, diary. Okay. On the faster pace, running. Running at the beach. Yeah, I miss the boardwalk so much. I hope to come visit in the summer. And I'm definitely going to be at the beach. Cuddling with cats. Yeah, cuddling. Yeah. I cuddle with Baloo all the time, my doggy, my pit bull. Yeah, there's somebody else that naps with her. Alex naps with her dog, matching her breaths. Yeah, so naps with cats, +1, dog. Yeah. Laying out in the sun. Yes, so yummy. Crocheting. Yes. I feel like I was just talking to a friend the other day how like all the millennials and like Gen Zers have brought back the older forms of hobbies like crocheting and knitting, making rugs and stuff. I love it. Weightlifting sessions. Grounding practices while you walk to class. Wow, amazing. I'm gonna put that over here. Grounding while walking. Cut out images like collaging. Yeah. Collaging is a great way to engage the body through healing. So alchemizing. Dancing. Yeah, I was waiting for dancing. Dancing's a big one for me. Shared journal. We got lots of folks writing journals and diaries. Love it. +1. Oh, and you send it to your friends. Yeah, where's all the relational stuff? We got friends. For me, it's meditation with like my goddesses. Do we have meditation somewhere? I think over here. Yeah. So look at all the different ways in which we can engage already in somatic practice. Yeah. So the intention of this is to show you that you're already doing it. These are ways in which you know how to take care of yourself. And perhaps you also got a few ideas of other things that you might be able to incorporate into your practices. And that the range, right, can be so wide. It can be all the way from napping and cuddling and reading books to running at the beach or singing in the car. Yeah. And so we'll come back to this as a reference in a moment. The idea is that the range of resonance, the wider our range of resonance, the more capacity we have for when we get activated. I won't cover this in this class. I'm actually going to teach a full course on this. But on the bottom and on the top of these ranges are where our trauma responses live. Some of you might be familiar with fight, flight, and freeze. Those are 3 rudimentary trauma responses. Freeze lives on the bottom of parasympathetic, where this dotted line is, and fight or flight is above this. And so in order for us to engage with our trauma responses, we want to start with a really, or rather, with as wide as possible of a range of resonance, a range of, I'm using the word resonance on purpose. Some might say regulation, like nervous system regulation. And I've shied away from the word regulation for a while because the idea of being regulated, like has a little bit of charge for me, like who regulates my body? Like regulation can invoke a sense of control, a sense of there's a right way to do it. And so resonance for me feels a little bit more like you take a breath. Okay, I'm resonating within my nervous system. So that's why I choose to use the word range of resonance. I also learned the word in this specific context from my teacher, Tal Darden. So range of resonance, we'll come back to this. You're also welcome to draw one of your own and add things as you develop your somatic practice. Okay, I'm going back to sharing my screen now. And remember that if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the chat, just put an asterisk in the front of it. Great. And the next piece is somatic as this capacity to introcept. So introception or introcepting is a muscle. It is like saying I can smell, or I can what's the word? I should have thought of a different example, but it's a muscle that we use to sense what's happening within the body, the internal landscape of our body. So interoception is a muscle, which means just like any other muscle in the body, gets stronger as we use it, as we practice it, right? And so interoception is about noticing within the body, including the 6 categories: sensations, images, memories, textures, vibrations, impulses, basically anything that could be noticed in the body. You might notice that I'm not including like pain or like tension, but that's all included, right? That's a sensation. Pain is a sensation. Grief has a texture, right? Grief might be sharp or heavy. It might come with an image of like, a stone or a body of water. It might have a vibration for you. And so these are qualities that we can begin to notice as we're interocepting. Yeah, and we'll come back to this definition as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm just gonna keep chugging along here. Okay. Just a little quote for you: through engaging with the body, we get access to and grow closer in intimacy to our wholeness. So to me, when we, so it's like me, for me, when we practice interoception, when we practice engaging with the body, when we practice expanding or within our range of resonance, that to me is a practice of growing closer to myself. Is a practice of embracing my wholeness, right? It's a practice of reintegrating, reclaiming, remembering parts of myself that have been fragmented or have been repressed or shamed. I'll let y'all in on a little secret. It's a well-known secret. It's on my Instagram and stuff. But I am very trans, very transmasculine. But my whole life, for 29 years, I didn't know that. The part of me that identifies as transgender was repressed. But through my process of healing trauma that started in about 2019, one layer at a time, right? Like one iteration of trauma resolution practice, and I'll talk about this specific practice that I use in a moment. One layer at a time, eventually more and more of my wholeness began to be integrated. More and more of through the practice of like, wow, there's so much grief here, there's so much shame here, working through one layer at a time, eventually I felt safer to express my identity as a trans being. So this is it, right? At least for me, this is how I feel liberated. So a note on somatic practices look different for everybody based on our lived experiences, our different abilities, our intersectional identities, our upbringing, our place of origin, our home, our access to community care. Our nervous systems are shaped differently based on all of these different conditions. So what that means is that you have to find the practices that make a difference for you. I'm offering up to 8 today. But you saw how we have like 20 more over here, right? So it's about the practice that makes the most sense for you. My practices that I'm offering are specific to the nervous system. All of these engage the nervous system, right? So find the one that works for you. I may offer 8, only 3 might work for you, and those are the 3 that you want to keep coming back to. I know that I am the presenter today, but I am not the expert of your body. Only you are. The only expert I am of is my own body and my own experience, and I'm sharing what I know. So here we are going into 3 more somatic practices, and these practices are, I find, specifically helpful for when I'm feeling activated. We're going to practice swinging, we're going to practice gentle squeezes, and we're going to practice orienting, which Elspeth mentioned earlier. And so you're welcome to also come back to just the 3 practices that we had earlier: stabilization, nourishment, and protection. But here are 3 more. Swinging side to side, you might begin by noticing or paying attention to the lower half of your body. So we want to notice the stabilization that's here, the gravity that's holding us as we begin to sway side to side. I often like to combine swaying, and the swaying can be side to side or forward to back. Again, you might find the one that works for you. For me, side to side, left to right works better, feels more accessible to my body. For you, front to back, or for you, it might be circles, right? You could like rock in a circle in one direction or the other. Let's maybe experiment and see which one feels right. And the reason why swinging can be helpful is because it engages both the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. We call this a bilateral movement. Some other forms of bilateral movement are like lifting one right hand and then the other, right? You could kind of sway your hands. I don't have the space right now to do that, but you could sway your right hand, left hand, forward and back. And this, let me actually stand up to show you. Bilateral movement can be swinging right and left, right? So I'm doing a little fast, but you could kind of slow down. So again, engaging left and right hemisphere of the brain helps the nervous system to come into more of a range of resonance. If you're swaying, you might consider combining that with the second practice of gentle squeezes. You might use your hands to gently apply pressure down your arms towards your hands. You might even squeeze your arms, rather like your hands, right? Your fingers, the palms, the wrists. Some folks enjoy this idea of brushing, like letting go of any stagnant energy. You could also do the same practice on your legs, your calves, your feet, if you don't mind touching your own feet. I like to squeeze my feet. It feels very grounding for me. And this practice can be helpful because it reminds us, oh, here's my body. I'm here. This is the flesh. These are my bones, right? Often when we re-experience something activating, it takes us out of the here and now. And so by gently squeezing and applying pressure, that sensation can help us come back to here and now a little bit more. The next practice, and we can do all 3 at the same time if you want to, be a little extra, but I'm going to pause on the swing and the squeezing, and I'm going to orient. Orienting is turning your head and your neck. So you do want to, as much as you can and as you are able, to turn your neck to look around your space, noticing the doors, noticing the windows, corners, anything neutral or possibly even pleasurable. The reason why we turn our neck is because we're engaging the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is the first part of our brain that was developed, and it governs our fight or flight responses. It's the animal brain, right? The brain that is, it's actually always doing this. We're constantly neurocepting. Neurocepting is this muscle of taking in information all the time and assessing for threat, right? And so when there is a threat, the reptilian brain will signal to the rest of the brain saying ding ding ding, let's engage fight or flight. It actually takes over. It actually takes over because safety is more important, right? Um, in the course, I'll talk more about what happens when we experience that. But for now, just know that when we're orienting, we're engaging neuroception on purpose. So we're bringing in a little bit more agency to noticing I am safe right here. And now there is no threat right now in this moment. Unless, of course, that's not the case. And then you might follow your impulse to leave or things like that. Okay, so these are 3 more practices. I'm so curious, how are folks doing? I'm gonna stop share and we're actually gonna take a 5-minute break. Actually, I want to do a 5-minute break just so that folks can have time. But before you go on your break, I'm curious if you'll put an emoji in the chat for me or use the reactions to kind of show me where you're at. You can also use words in the chat, phrases, colors, animals. Thank you. Lavender, beautiful. I could almost smell it. Yeah. Yay, thank you. Oh, redwoods. Wow. How powerful. Thank you, Eli. Mm-hmm. Oh, Juana. Or Joanna, please let me know if how to pronounce your name. That's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Juana. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Snow on a windowsill. How beautiful. What a beautiful image. So let's meet back at 5 minutes after the hour. Please take a break, stretch, get some water, use the bathroom, whatever you need. And when we come back, I will talk a little bit about the trauma resolution process. And then we'll have time for Q&A. See you in 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Hey, I hope that was enough time to get some of your immediate needs met. I'm gonna share my screen again. If not, please feel free to take your time. There is a recording, so you're not gonna miss anything. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about how I define trauma resolution. There are many, many definitions out there, many ways in which trauma is resolving, trauma is being met in your own practice with different practitioners, different lineages of wisdom. This is how I am approaching it as a practitioner. Phase 1 is about attunement and growing capacity. And so everything we've talked about today is in phase 1. Some of us might be here and need to stay here for a number of years. I was doing this for about 2-3 years before I really felt like I could move towards the heat with more capacity. Especially when you're in school and there's, stacked responsibilities, this is sometimes just where we need to be at. And that's absolutely important. Yeah. The beautiful thing is, as we're engaging in phase 1, the more we practice phase 1, phase 2 naturally happens. We do not have to seek it out. There's the saying, like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It's kind of similar. It's like when your body is ready, the trauma will appear, or the trauma appear ready to be healed, right? And so that's the beautiful circular fractal nature of healing trauma, is that the more we grow our capacity, the more we're able to move towards the heat, and that allows for more capacity to move towards more heat, and so on and so forth. So while they're phases, they're really more of a spiral, a spiral that's multidimensional. And so attunement and growing capacity is about your practice of stabilization, protection, and nourishment that we talked about earlier, growing your range of resonance, and then beginning to know how to meet your nervous system when it gets activated or is in freeze. And so that's where the range of resonance comes in, right? Like if I'm activated, I know to go for a long walk, or I know that I need to sing or dance, or if I'm feeling a bit more in freeze, I might start to bring in some gentle squeezes and some swaying, right? Just to kind of bring my body back into a little bit more heat, more presence. I might drink a little matcha and go for, a cuddle with my dog or something like that. Resourcing pleasure, joy, community, nature, abundance. For me, in my practice, I work very deeply with my ancestors, especially because a lot of our trauma is intergenerational. Not all, but a lot can be intergenerational. Resourcing on a consistent enough basis. And consistent doesn't mean frequent, right? Sometimes when we think consistent, we're like, I need to be doing this every day, otherwise I'm not consistent. Consistency to me, rather, is if I forget, or if I have left, or rather I have gone off the path and I'm very activated, consistency is my ability to come back to the practices that I know will support me. Consistency is the quality and the desire of knowing that these are the things that help me feel resourced. So that's what I mean by consistent, not frequent. And as we grow in a capacity, as phase one is a thing in which we grow as a muscle, phase two is moving towards the heat. Now we know how our nervous system responds when we're activated, but we might also begin to notice patterns and triggers, right? We might say like, oh, there's this specific thing that tends to happen that makes me feel not worthy enough. There's this kind of experience that will trigger my nervous system into a fight response. We start to understand more and more how and when the nervous system gets activated. We start to invite in the understanding of trauma responses with compassion and care. And the course I'm writing breaks down all of the trauma responses so that we can begin to work with it. Today, the focus is on phase one. Practicing the safer process, which I will teach you all today because it includes phase one. And working with a somatic therapist or practitioner. Sometimes we can't do it on our own, and we need guidance. We need someone who understands the language of the nervous system to be a mirror, to help us resource, to help us say, hey, I'm here with you. You still with me? Right? So oftentimes we need support. I definitely needed support. So any questions about the phases before I move into the safer process? Please feel free to drop it in the chat or save it for later. Here is phase one and phase two. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide. So this is the safer process. This is a process that I created to help us. Every time we do one round of safer process, it is an iteration of resolving trauma. Yes, it can be so simple. Yes, trauma resolution is a multi-million number of iterations of meeting yourself and caring for yourself through this process. It can be so small. In fact, trauma resolution has to be small. It has to be small and doable. I know that sometimes it's not the answer because under capitalism, we want quick fixes. We want Amazon Prime delivered yesterday. We want, everything to be done with a snap of a finger. Unfortunately, that, in my experience, doesn't allow for the right conditions for trauma to heal. Now, that doesn't mean that quantum leaps can't happen. It doesn't mean that when with the right conditions, we can go back and revisit something back then, and something shifts and the spiral of something new emerging, more blueprint emerging can happen. Absolutely, it can. But this is where we start, right? The practice of building our capacity and meeting ourselves through the safer process allows for these kind of time traveling, these timeline jumping, quantum leaping experiences to happen. It absolutely can. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've experienced it, and I want that for you so much. Safer actually begins with R instead of S, but the acronym just works that way. But we begin with resourcing, and we've done that so much today already. Stability, nourishment, protection. We start by resourcing sources that are bigger than us so that we don't have to hold it on our own. And then we might tell the story of what happened. It doesn't have to be the story of way back when. It could be this morning or right now. This morning I'm making this up, this isn't real. I had an argument with my partner, and this is what happened. He said this, I'm a gay boy. He said this, and I said this, and he said this, and I said this. That's the story. And the attunement is what's here now? It happened then or earlier or way back when, but how am I feeling now? What is there to notice now? I might orient first to around me, and then I might introspect. What is there to notice in the categories, the PEMSR, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, relational realms that is to notice? What's here and now? And then I might follow the felt sense. And this is where the introspection comes in. Instinct or impulse, the felt sense, instinct. Is the impulse to cry? Is the impulse to wail? Is the impulse to stomp, to scream? Could I follow that instinct any amount? Is the impulse to hide, to cover my face and get really small? Is the impulse to punch a pillow? What might the impulse be, and could we follow that any amount? And here is E, expressions of love and compassion. What did I need to hear or receive or feel right now? Perhaps from myself, from a higher self, if that's a language you like to use, an adult self, maybe, or perhaps from a resource, right? A goddess, a deity, from the water, from the mycelium network, from the snow, from the sun. What might I need to hear, receive, or feel, and can I soften into receiving it? May I allow the expression of love to help me move with the felt sense so that I can be more here and now. The safer process is circular, but it really could be left, right, up, down, front to back, multi-directional. But SAFER, I hope, is an acronym that can allow you to practice meeting yourself, because like I mentioned, when we follow the felt sense, when we move towards the heat, any amount, that is resolving trauma over and over and over again. It can be so small, it can be doable. It has to be doable, because when it's not doable, it overwhelms the nervous system and then we're looping, right? So we want to be able to move with instinct, with as much doability as possible. So because we're a bigger group, unfortunately, I don't think it's responsible for me to have us go into a safer process, because there's not enough time for me to really hold what might happen with instincts and impulse. But this is something you can kind of keep in your back pocket, maybe practice on your own. You follow my work. I might do a video, not sure yet, but I'm definitely writing a course, and we will be doing the safer process together. I will have like spotlights where folks can come on camera and we'll do it together one-on-one. So folks, if you don't mind being witnessed in that process, but all that's to come. For now, this is the process. Feel free to take a screenshot. I'm actually happy to share the slides. I think there's nothing in here that I don't want to share. But again, it's really important to me that I get credited for my work. I have histories around my work being stolen. So please credit me where you can. Let me grab the link. And now it's time for a Q&A. So hold on a second, let me grab the link and then we'll do the Q&A copy link. Here we go, there's the link to the slides. And any shares, questions? I don't believe we have time for these practices unless there are no questions. Yes, any shares or questions? And then here's a little bit about me. I'll stop share for now and pause for questions. Or shares similarly to earlier, you're welcome to use words, colors, images, textures, emojis to share. Yes, please. Thank you.